as your president, I would put an SLA on tollways that says
Listen,
you're going to go
listen to
state
this
what my
pitch. I like
SLA
it.
is from here to here. If you don't meet your SLA, it is free. And at some point, we're going to give you money back of the money that you paid us as your president in 2022.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for joining us on another episode of The Download. This is Jake Sherrill, joined by Joel Andersen, our VP of Marketing, and our guest of honor from one of our esteemed partners, Flexential, Mr. James Ochoa. James, say hi to the crowd.
Hey, everyone. Nice to see everyone virtually.
Indeed.
Well, James, let's go ahead and get started. We'll have you introduce yourself, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So my name's James Ochoa. I'm the VP of Cloud Sales at Flexential. Been at Flexential now for over 5 years, right? I think it's like 5.5 years at this point, which is it's kind of a long time in the world of IT. You see a lot of folks making some moves and jumping, and new technology, new players coming in the space. So been here now for a little over 5 years, and I sit in the Dallas market, which yesterday the weather was amazing. Today the weather is not so amazing. I think we're expecting it to dip in the low teens, and school was officially canceled tomorrow and Friday. So
you got some freeze warning or some snow coming?
We do, right? And you guys remember from last year, I think a lot of people are on their toes just from what happened last year. But we've been assured nothing like that. But that did not stop the run at the Kroger, right? Or firewood going on sale for a premium or any of that. But
exactly.
Yeah, no, it'll be fun. It'll be good to get my boy back in the house. All these virtual calls and having a house full of kids and yelling. It's going to be really interesting how I do this. I might need to jump into your vault, Jake, and be able to have some of those calls.
All right, good stuff. Well, thanks for joining us. And anytime you guys need to use the vault, just let me know, whether it's for a podcast filming or for data center space. Of course, you never know. But hope you guys stay warm out there and enjoy this swing of weather coming through Texas. It's a beautiful part of the country for sure. Real quick, just to level set, a lot of you have listened to the download before and already know what it's about. For those of you who are new, it's really the thought of getting thought leaders together, trending topics in technology, and discussing different things about data center or telecom or security, maybe emerging tech, things like that. So we look forward to getting into the conversation with James. Before we do that, want to allow Joel to introduce himself to the group. Joel, say hi to everybody as well.
Hello. This week, Jake, marks 4 years at Tier 4. James talking about 5 years, at Flexential. So I'm here for 4 years, man. Time has flown by. I can't believe it.
4 years at Tier 4. That's your golden birthday, I think, is what they call it, right? Or something like that?
Something like that, I guess.
Yeah. Good. Well, happy anniversary, Joel. We're excited to have you here for not only a year or two, but now 4 years. That's exciting news.
Indeed.
Want to quickly introduce Tier 4 Advisors to the listeners. I founded Tier 4 Advisors, oddly enough, almost 9 years ago. The 9-year anniversary is coming up here on March 1st. So really on the premise of helping IT professionals simplify and expedite the procurement process. We also do, anything from enterprise architecture, strategy, planning, to gathering the notes and quotes from different vendors around the country or around the world for you. 5 key areas of expertise, and we'll probably put on the screen for you for those who are watching the video portion of this podcast. But 5 key areas: data center, telecom, managed services, cybersecurity, emerging tech, and software. So anyway, we can possibly help you with your upcoming projects. Again, not as a vendor, but as a subject matter expert who literally and figuratively sits on your side of the table. Please find us at tier4advisors.com or reach out to your local regional president, whether that is in Seattle, Los Angeles, Dallas, Boston, Philadelphia, Nashville, or Atlanta, to name a few markets. There's a lot of other markets that I didn't just mention, but happy to get engaged, help you any way we can. Also, real quick, shout out to James and the Flexential team. Very excited to be joining their advisory board. here in about, what is it, a couple weeks, I think. A couple weeks from today is when it starts down in Miami Beach. So really looking forward to that, learning more about Flexential. And we've been partners with Flexential back before it was called Flexential. I remember joining the advisory board. I think it was in Dallas. I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years ago when the name Flexential was announced, by the way. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe at the time it was Peak 10 and Via West or something like that. Do you remember that, James?
Yep. That's exactly what it was. And I think I think we rolled it out. If it wasn't in Dallas, it was in Austin. But yes, I mean it was one of those we paid a good amount of money to come up with a name like Flexential, right?
Yeah. Flexible and essential for your business technology. So I think they did a nice job. They hit that nail on the head. Well, good stuff. Joel, why don't we go ahead and turn it over to you? We'll start with some of the Q&A, and then as an agenda item, we'll get through some of that. We'll talk about the best thing that we saw all week, and then we will spin this here wheel that for those who are tuned in, it's now in the vault instead of the HQ studio, since we're doing these remotely now.
Sounds good. So, James, we like to introduce our guests to our crowd a little bit to help them understand your background, your expertise. But before all that, as you're growing up, we'd like to start from the very beginning. What was the first job that you ever had, whether it was teenage years, maybe a little bit later in life, but your first job, as they say?
I'm going to give you two, and there's a reason why. So my dad's father's a contractor. So growing up, right, my first paying job, very, very low paying, was working for him, right? So going to his job sites, picking up trash, making sure that the 5-gallon paint buckets had paint in them as they were spraying and doing all that. But the first official job where it was no one with my last name paying me was at Subway. So I would make subs after football practice.
A sandwich artist? Is that what they're called?
That's it. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
You go home smelling like fresh bread every time you leave the restaurant?
Oh, you gotta love that. There was no way to go from Subway to anything else other than home to shower because of that said smell.
Yep, I have a handful of friends and even some family members that did the same thing in their earlier years. Nice, right on.
Yeah.
All right, so working construction, it's always nice to have a little bit of handyman type skills, and probably got some good training there. Then into the sandwich artist business. So eventually, as you finish high school, maybe did some college, how did you transition into the IT field?
That job comes back up again, right? After when I graduated college, came back, worked with my father, right? I was like, I need to keep going. I need to keep working. I'm a busybody. So I need to always stay busy. So I was working with him, and I had this idea of what success meant. And for me, success was to go work for a company that had their name or their logo on the side of the building. So as we're driving through Dallas, right, Metroplex, all over, I would take a pen and pad and I would write down the name of these companies in the building. And I actually researched all of them, and I found one on Craigslist. So I started working at CBeyond. I found a recruiter that was looking to hire someone on at CBeyond. So I went through the whole kind of CBeyond onboarding, but that is how I first got into technology, was as a local rep here in the Dallas market for CBeyond.
That's amazing, because there's a lot of people in this industry today who have been in this industry for a decade or longer that started at CBeyond. So
I love it.
Kudos to the training program and the people at CBeyond for getting thousands of people into the technology industry.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I'm telling you, it is a reunion. You start throwing out what year you came through, right? It's amazing, and you're right. That's an amazing weave that we've webbed all over the United States, right? Which is folks that, like you said, have worked there at some point or another.
So, been in the IT space for a little bit or a little while now. What would you say is one of the top 1 to 2 things that you enjoy most about the IT field?
I love that every day is a new day, right? It's a new challenge. I am very much, like I mentioned to you, a busybody. So new technology coming at you, new challenges from customers coming at you, and how can we go solve those, right? So being able to have that every day is something new is amazing to me. It just makes the day go by fast, right? Especially nowadays when we're on these video calls, what seems from sun up to sundown. but no day's the same. And I really love that challenge of being able to just have that, right? Just have that, those different conversations, different challenges. And like I mentioned, very curious. So if I could go learn something new, like that is amazing to me as well, right? Because I'm just a big believer in that we always got to keep getting better to be able to have better conversations, be able to understand what's out in the marketplace. And we happen to work in an industry that is ever evolving. So
Right.
so there's always room
right.
for that.
Indeed. Nice. So we kind of talk about maybe some professional accomplishments that have happened throughout your career, maybe one thing you'd like to share, but then also maybe one of the biggest struggles or hurdles that you've had to overcome throughout your professional career as well. So we'll start with a professional accomplishment, and then we'll kind of end with a struggle, but then something you've been able to overcome.
Yeah. There's some creativity sometimes that we got to go do, right? And how we go solve challenges. And I mentioned that I'm here in Dallas, and at the time I was working for a bar, and there was a new player coming to town, and it was Nebraska Furniture Mart. They were opening up this huge complex in Plano Colony here, and there was a requirement for something that we did not do. Right? They were looking for a distributed antenna system, and they needed this for this massive complex that they're going to deploy. There was going to be a lot of interference. It was a smart store, smart SKUs, the amount of wireless access points everywhere. So they needed to ensure that cell phones would work, right, in case someone needs to call 911, et cetera. I got really creative. I was able to go work a deal where I brought in a partner to do all the cabling and install for us. I brought someone else that could come in and actually sell us the distributed antenna system. As a company, we didn't do really any of it other than put it on our paper. But it was one of those deals where it was $1 million sale for us at the time, which was my largest sale. But it wasn't even the aspect of the sale. It was the fact of getting creative, bringing the players together, and going to go solve that challenge that was in front. That's why to me it was my greatest accomplishment, because it's just one of those that I think just shows that you gotta have all these skills to put it together and go deliver a solution to someone.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
We use the term inventing the parachute as you're falling to the ground, right? And of course, you never want to be inventing the parachute as you fall to the ground. However, sometimes in life, you have to, right? And
right.
It's always interesting to see when a vendor partner is put in a position to do that because of the requirement by their customers, and how they can candidly win the deal and deliver. That's an inspiring story. That's really great.
Right on. So is there a follow-up to that? Is there maybe a hurdle that you had to overcome, or is that the hurdle you had to overcome to also turn into a professional success?
That's kind of killed two birds with one stone there. But no, for me, honestly, a lot of it is checking your emotions. I mean, just as we started engaging with a lot more people, you're interacting with a lot of different characters, personalities. There's always a smarter person in the room, and that's okay, because yeah, I think that's the way you got to approach it, right? Because that then presents a challenge to you. But it's just, how can you check your emotions at the door, right, when you're having these conversations, to be able to grow from it, be able to understand that you're not always right. So for me, some of that is right, is as you're talking with customers, as you're speaking with partners, even just internally within your company, is how can you check the emotions to let the facts present themselves, and how we go about solving that. And that's kind of the one thing I learned, is how to take a step back, or a pause, or a deep breath before you try to jump in and, like, I'm going to solve it. Here's how I'm going to solve it, right? Or I'm right, and here's what. Just being able to take a deep breath and just reapproach it.
Copy that. Good stuff. All right, Jake, should we move on to the best thing we saw all week?
Let's do that. Why don't we go ahead and start, James, with you? We do this as a segment every week. What's the best thing that you saw all week?
Well, I'll tell you, the worst thing I saw was the Washington, was it Commanders, or their new team name that they just announced today for the Washington football team.
Oh, not a fan?
No, I don't know. Maybe it'll grow on me. But when their star player gives it an F, I think that that's a little telling. But this past weekend, my son returned back to lacrosse, and he started it, and he had to quit 2 years ago when COVID came, and then we actually welcomed our daughter a month before the world shut down. So we took a lot of precautions coming out of that. So it was really good to be able to get back out there in the field and for him to be around a team and in a sport that he actually likes and not on his iPad.
Absolutely.
That's great. Joel, how about yourself? What's the best thing you saw all week?
So I'm going to stay with the family theme as well. So I have 2 young daughters. My 6-year-old loves to golf, which is so much fun for me as an avid golfer. So when I get my 6-year-old to come with me and we get to go play 9 holes, absolutely love it. My 2-year-old this week, we went to the range and she's now able to start swinging some clubs. And so we got her swinging her little kid clubs, got her to, get her feet set and get her grip right. It was so much fun. I love golfing by itself, but I love golfing with my family. Like, that is pure joy for me. And so now that like my 2 kids, they want to spend time with me, they want to go golfing with their dad and with their mom, of course, too. That was so much fun. So she's now getting on the golf train. That was the best thing I saw all week.
That's great. As a father of children, I can greatly appreciate when kids get to go play sports and be active. It's always fun when you can do it together as a family. And
absolutely.
And that's a good time. Best thing that I saw all week was actually a video that went viral recently. It's of a 3-year-old. I've actually sent it to Joel, so maybe we'll see if he can patch it in here.
Yeah, that kid, he crushes it. He looks younger than 3, like in the video, which is crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, that just goes to show, though, that sometimes you're just born with it, right? I mean, to have that skill, your 2-year-old swinging. I mean, I could tell you, I could probably take lessons from your 2-year-old on how to actually go do that. And this 3-year-old out there on a skateboard, I think I would have eaten it for sure. So it's just that is really, really impressive, because it's that just tells you you're born with that type of skill sometimes.
I agree with that. You're also, as parents, if you expose your kids to things at a younger age, chances are they pick up on it, they enjoy it, and then they're obviously much better at it at 10 or 15 or 20 years old as well, right? So It's interesting to see the kids out on the ski slopes that have been skiing since they were old enough to walk, or the people golfing who've been playing their whole lives, and a lot of other activities for sure. So that's really cool. Well, good stuff, Joel. You got some other questions then we want to jump in with James about some different offerings that Flexential has and some different technologies and things like that?
Absolutely. We'll turn to James and you as well, Jake, during this conversation as kind of the thought leaders and the IT experts in the room, if you will. But want to talk about, cloud strategy and kind of the anatomy of what makes a successful cloud strategy, because Lord knows there are hundreds of thousands of unsuccessful cloud strategies that have taken place over the years. So let's kind of break that down for a minute. And James, we'll start with you. Jake, chime in. But like, what are the must-haves that play or that need to be involved with a cloud strategy?
Yeah, I mean, so for that, it's always evolving, right? So I think that's one thing to understand and appreciate is you have to start with the strategy. You just can't go into it and say, we're just going to go this direction or this direction without planning what the big picture looks like. But to understand that, you need to understand the business requirements, right? So what are those requirements for our business, for the different line of business owners that are out there? What are the technical requirements, right? So as you're developing your strategy, it's really kind of taking a step back and understanding the business, the operational, and the technical requirements. And then that last one that's very important, this is the ever evolving one, which is, what does my future state look like? And when I think about all these requirements, as I go make this transition into a cloud-like model, right? Whether it's SaaS, whether it's public cloud or a private cloud provider like ourselves out there, does it fit the end state of the future state, right? And do I need to jump all in, or can I take this in that crawl, walk, run mentality? So those components, right, of how do you go sit down and bring in the folks from your operation, bring in the folks from your business, sit down in a room and whiteboard, what are we trying to go execute and why? What does our 3-year, 5-year roadmap look like from a business perspective? And then from there, the IT leader can really look at that, take it all together and develop the strategy that they could then go execute on as a team.
One thing I'll add is people will approach that strategy gathering stage, I guess, for lack of a better term, in different ways, right? There's different reasons that people do things. I think we can agree pretty much everything that you do in life. With regards to sometimes a cloud journey, people are trying to save money. People are trying to maybe reduce headcount and thinking that might save money. People are maybe trying to increase uptime or maybe make things more secure somehow, some way. All right. I will say, and I say this with a fair warning, that we've done hundreds of these projects in the last 9 years. Not always are you going to get better service for less money. Not always are you going to be able to accomplish all the different things. Sometimes you will. Sometimes you will. Depends how bad your current situation is, to be candid, right? A lot of people want to get out of the hardware business. They want to be able to say they're in the cloud. People think that cloud might be AWS or Azure or others. Obviously, a lot of different options out there for sure. Flexential, of course, being one of them that helps with private cloud, DRaaS, and a myriad of others. But it's always interesting, again, back to my point, to see what the reason for a lot of clients to start this journey is. If it's the tightening of the purse string, so to speak, from the CFO, or finding and retaining talent and the challenges thereof, or something like that.
So as you're having conversations with IT leaders and other business leaders within an organization, James, what are some of those myths about the cloud, or I guess some of those top reasons that organizations don't move to the cloud?
Some of that, honestly, is some of the things Jake just mentioned too, though, right? It's the idea of cloud's going to be cheaper, right? We're going to go there and we're going to save tons of money. And they go through the exercise and they sit back and they're like, we're not saving any money. It actually costs us more, especially if historically it's been, I'm going to do it myself, right? And there's a lot of other benefits that you start gaining, but that's the biggest challenge sometimes in why they don't make this transition, is just because they come in there with the expectation that it's going to be cost savings and they'll be able to see it on paper immediately, right? And it takes a little bit more work and effort to build that up. But I would say that with that too, though, is the idea of there's risk that's involved in making this transition, right? You're going to lose some level of control. And as you lose that level of control, you're shifting that responsibility to a provider now. And are you okay with shifting that? Some people are not okay with shifting that, especially for critical applications, compliant verticals that are out there. It's, I don't really feel like shifting this. My neck's going to be the one on the line. I need to maintain control of this. So a lot of those challenges is why people kind of stop short of adopting the cloud, is because they don't want to lose control of their environment if they go make this transition into a cloud, which for the most part, when people think cloud, I think a lot of people think public cloud, right? Azure, AWS, GCP, right? Oracle even, right, as an option for folks that are out there. So that's the biggest kind of myth, is I'm gonna not have access, not have control in my environment. And I think that there's some things you do give up, but honestly, you start sharing that responsibility with people, and it makes you that much better, because now your team can focus on the right things versus focusing on, are the lights on, are the lights blinking, right? How do we go replace this piece of equipment, and life cycle management and things of that nature.
Jake, what else? What are some other myths or some top reasons that you hear from organizations choosing not to go to the cloud or not willing to adopt it just yet?
Yeah, control is certainly one of them. When I first started Tier 4, I still remember a meeting that I had down at a very large bank in the Southeast. I'll just leave it at that, where the enterprise architect, right, the main guy, if you will, for strategy and planning, said the words "never" and "cloud" in the same sentence, as in, like, we will never, meaning this bank, go to the cloud. And I remember thinking even then, boy, never's a long time. Never's a long time, right? Yeah, James, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's control. It's candidly lack of education on what the cloud actually is. Because to me, a lot of people think that the cloud is Amazon, just like we think that a tissue is a Kleenex, if you will, right? They use that brand as the definition of what it is they're going to. Yeah, we're going to Amazon. All right, well, explain why. Explain what. Explain what you're trying to accomplish. Anyways, long story short, I think that there's a lot of different myths and gotchas that people have faced in doing it. If your application doesn't work well in a public hyperscaler, chances are it would work better in a private cloud, right? Because you basically have an internal private cloud already on your own metal. And again, that's what people like Flexential and others offer. So if in fact the hope is to get out of the hardware business or get out of the data center business and migrate your workloads to the cloud, you have to obviously make sure you know where those are going to go land. You need to understand what tooling, what resources, what scalability requirements you have. And, hopefully you make the right decision yourself on where you want to land those applications. A little shameless plug for Tier 4. That's why we're in business, right? Is to help you find the right vendor the first time. So you're not landing those applications at vendor A, realizing that was a mistake, trying out vendor B, realizing that was a mistake, and now you're on vendor C, praying to God that works out, right?
And that you still have a job.
Yeah. God willing, you do, right? So,
yeah.
Anyways, I heard an interesting stat. This was probably 10, 12 years ago at a conference I spoke at. And they said the average IT professional will do 1 or 2 data center projects in their entire career. 1 or 2. And I'll tell you right now, if I needed to go get brain surgery, guess what brain surgeon I'm not going to go with? I'm not going to go with the brain surgeon that's done 1 or 2 brain surgeries over the last 30 or 40 years, right? I want the person that's done hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands. And so it's hard to expect IT professionals to be an expert in something that they're not doing monthly or at least annually, if you will. And again, just finishing that shameless plug, but that's why Tier 4 is in business. And that's why we have Flexential on this week, is because they're a great partner of ours and they do a lot of great things in the cloud and data center space. So,
yeah,
absolutely.
If I could, I'm sorry, I'm just going to come right back in on this, because I think you said a couple things, Jake, that resonated. And when the world shut down, people went remote. One of the industries that probably struggled the most because they weren't prepared for this. You for security reasons, right? You lock everything down, but a lot of the folks in the financial industry weren't prepared for people working remotely. How do we go address that? How do we handle that? A lot of branches, right? From a lot of those household names that you're familiar with from banking, they shut down their branches and consolidated because they still couldn't necessarily do work from home. So there was an inconvenience to the end user, where here's the bank I would go to for the last 10 years. Now I have to drive an extra, 4 or 5 miles one direction to get to a bank that has a line out the door. But one thing that I think just to kind of also put a ribbon on this is just we've created these blueprints, right, of different challenges or pain points that our customers have. And I think those blueprints are important because sometimes people do feel that it needs to be all or nothing. Like, I need to go have this big bang, and if I don't have the big bang, this isn't going to work. And a lot of that leads to just no action happening, right? Because it's a huge task, a huge burden, a lot of risk to take on. But with the blueprints that we've created, a lot of it kind of really starts showing our customers the art of the possible of how can you start here to slowly deploy into more of this hybrid, right? How can we make that more human for our customers, of leveraging public cloud when it makes the most sense, leveraging as a service, because a lot of these software vendors are pushing that where it makes sense. Maybe you have a legacy infrastructure where co-location makes sense, right? But having a visual is really good, because if you've never been somewhere, right, you need to type it into your Google Maps and it needs to tell you how to get there and what your stops are going to be along the way to plan it out. It's exactly what the blueprints are that we've helped develop, and something we share with our customers.
Right on. So Flexential is a trusted partner of Tier 4. We've done many deals throughout the years together, and we appreciate the partnership at some of our VIP events that we host around the country, which we'll be talking about more momentarily here. But let's talk about the key differentiators between Flexential and, say, the competition that's out there. So we can use this as a moment to clarify, what your core competencies are, but then maybe some areas where you shine and are different from your competitors.
Yeah, all of it's different. No, just kidding, right? It's at some point, right, it becomes really confusing for customers. That's why folks like you guys exist, right? Because you guys could help navigate your customers and who shines best depending on what solutions. But
Absolutely.
I would tell you that from a provider, we're a hybrid IT provider helping customers solve challenges, business challenges. But what does that mean, right? I think if you strip that back at the core, we have data center services, cloud services, right? Layering on some managed services with that. But more importantly is we could help interconnect all that together to really deliver, like I mentioned, the hybrid environment to customers. But a lot of that is products, right? Here's a product, here's a product, here's a product. What really helps us differentiate from a lot of our competitors out in the market space is we have our own internal professional services team that are subject matter experts in actually helping customers navigate their this transition or this journey or transformation into the cloud. And that is very powerful because not only are we presenting an end state, but now we're presenting here's how we're going to go execute on that end state. And I keep bringing up the words of risk and responsibility because those are so prevalent in top of mind in a lot of these decision makers that are out there, right? It's does the reward match the risk? And if it doesn't, we're not going to go do it, right? If there's a way for us to help mitigate that risk, because like you've mentioned, Jake, we've done this not only once or twice, right? We probably do it once or twice a week, helping different customers from assessing their workloads, gap assessments from a security perspective, right? Any type of vulnerabilities that they may have. And then how do we navigate and put this into a package that says, we're going to do this in this order, in this way. And here's a framework that we use that we'll share with you and walk you through that to get you to the end state of what you want to get to. And the best part about it all is we stay in that picture throughout the entire time, right? So the reassessing is always important in that cloud strategy of how do we go reassess technology like containers, right? Maybe it's a lift and shift for our customers, but at some point they would like to leverage containers. So that gives them ultimate portability of where they go deploy these workloads, right? Whether it's a microservice or a full application that they want to go deploy in AWS, on-prem, or in Azure, being able to run that anywhere without necessarily having questions or concerned about the underlying infrastructure is really powerful. So it's having that type of thought leadership and bringing that back into the fold after we get our customers to the end state they want to get to. And it's just a cycle, right? It's a big circle. But hopefully that answered your question there.
Absolutely. Flexential, again, is a trusted partner of Tier 4. If you have any questions for James or his team, we'd be happy to set up a phone call with them and explore a little bit deeper to see if there's anything they might be able to help out with. But Jake, that's it for me and my questions. Should we spin that wheel, keep this thing moving?
You bet. Hold on just a minute. Let me go spin it.
Normally we have it right next to us, but now we got to make Jake run over there and get it. Number
7 here.
7.
Number 7, James, we've asked this question before, so maybe you've seen this episode. If you were president of the United States of America, what would one of the first things you did in office be? We'll go ahead and start with James on this question.
I'm very prepared to actually carry a list in my wallet in case anyone ever wants to make me president. So, no, I'll tell you this. And I did see an episode where this was asked. I have this big problem with the North Texas Tollway Authority, really tolls in general. And the reason I have this problem is we pay a pretty penny to ride on the tollway, and that's the most efficient way for me to get to a lot of places because I'm right next to the tollway. But occasionally, it's gridlock. You're not moving on that tollway, but I still paid the same amount to go the same distance, and it might take me 3 to 4 times the amount. I live in the world of SLAs. As your president, I would put an SLA on tollways that says you're going to go state what my SLA is from here to here. If you don't meet your SLA, it is free, and at some point, we're going to give you money back of the money that you paid us as your president in 2022.
Holy cow. that was fantastic. He's ready to go to a rally right now and get the votes. That's good.
I think you would definitely win the states that have toll roads. So, everything from Florida to Texas and the Northeast, you definitely win those on that one alone.
Yeah, well, it's a big thing. They grow up. They start everywhere. They're supposed to at some point hand it off. They don't, but you get a nice bill sometimes when you travel out of town, and You're like, I don't remember that, but now I got to pay an extra $15, right? So
Right.
yeah, that's where I would start.
Good. I like that. Yeah, we had a toll road that was put in here, Georgia 400 years back. They were supposed to hand that off. They ended up keeping possession of it, I think, for a decade longer than they were supposed to. And then they ended up tearing out the toll plaza and handing it over. So anyways, sooner than later, hopefully they start handing some of that stuff over in Texas as well. We'll see.
Yeah, well, did you guys hear? I don't know if you did, but a couple years ago, there was a big crackdown on people that owed like 80,000, 120,000. It was a lot of money owed to these guys, to the point that they actually didn't allow you to. It was either your driver's license renewal or even your car registration. You couldn't renew it until you called the North Texas Tollway Authority and set up a payment plan. And it was basically college tuition for a lot of people that they were paying.
Crazy.
Wow, crazy. Joel, it's been a few months since we asked this question, so maybe you have a different answer. What would your first day look like as president of the United States?
So I think last time I said I wanted to outlaw pennies. I think that's what my answer was, because I hate change. I hate loose change, dimes and nickels, and like maybe quarters for like candy machines or whatever, like for the kids. But like, there's no sense in carrying around a nickel or carrying around a penny. Like, make everything whole numbers, like $1 even or $5 even. We don't need change. This go round, executive order that like any telecom companies, cell phone companies, they like have to have some sort of accountability for all the spam calls and the spam texts that are going out. Like, it drives me nuts. It used to be spam calls. Now I'm getting 2 to 3 spam texts a day. And I don't know the technology behind these scammers and how they're doing it, but I'm making it some sort of an executive order that telecom providers just can't allow this anymore. Like, that's happening day one for me as president.
Okay. I like it. Fair warning to all those that are listening. Do not click on the links of all these random text messages or in-mail messages or email messages that you get. There's people that I know that I'm sure are getting these text messages that are clicking on all these links because of, a sale at Costco or a sale at Mervyn's or whatever store you might frequent. Do not click on those. Do yourself a favor so you don't have to deal with all that. I'll give you a different answer. How about allowing people in America to make choices for themselves? That might be controversial for some people that listen to this, but for God's sake, it's the United States of America. If you want to go to church on Sunday, go to church on Sunday. You want to go golfing, go golfing. I think it's the same with whatever else that might have to do with your own personal body and choices. As long as you're not affecting the safety and life of others. You don't want to wear a seatbelt in your car, don't wear a seatbelt. I hate to be, again, controversial, but for God's sake, February of 2022 in the United States of America, we have to talk about, being free and making choices for yourself. That's a novel idea. So I'll go ahead and throw that one out there. People have a problem with it, feel free to comment on my podcast video for once.
Nice. All right. I got to make a plug for our upcoming VIP events for this year. 2022, we have some amazing things queued up. We're going to be at the Phoenician Golf Resort in Scottsdale. It's going to be fantastic on March 4th. Then we come back to Atlanta, DK Gallery. This is going to be a little bit more different than maybe our traditional high-end sports event, maybe more octane type event. So art, wine, cheese, some jazz music, appreciating some art at DK Gallery, which is a Bring a Plus One event. Also some insane prizes that will be given away and raffled off for some lucky winners throughout the evening. We're talking like a stay at Lowe's Hotel. We're talking dinner for 2 at a steakhouse. We're talking tickets to the Fox Theater. We're talking like some high-end prizes here, so you don't want to miss that one. Let's see. Then we go to New Orleans for the Pelicans-Blazers game at a sideline suite. Then on April 26th, Nashville Predators in the Lexus Lounge, Bunker Suite. That one's nearly already full, which is crazy. We're a couple months out and people are like dying to get in. And then we're back for the world defending World Series, world champion. How do I say that? The Braves are the defending World Series champions. That's what I want to say. We'll be in the Home Depot Suite on April 28th back here in Atlanta. and looking forward to these first few VIP events to start the year. tier4advisors.com/events for IT executives and business leaders in those markets. We look forward to seeing you there.
We went into 2020, James, you'll appreciate this, thinking we were going to do 20 or 30 VIP events. Obviously, the COVID gods had different plans. We ended up doing 2. But we are very excited and hopeful that 2022 is going to be better. We do these events for you, the IT end user. We thank our partners like Flexential and dozens of others who help to pay the freight of some of these events. So if you feel comfortable getting out of the house or the office and you want to come network with a dozen or 2 like-minded IT professionals, meet the Tier 4 folks in your market, as well as some of our best partners around the country, feel free to come out and enjoy yourself. Hopefully you can have a good time, enjoy a beverage or 2, and enjoy something like a game or a driving event or whatever it is, a golf event like we're doing. So very excited about what we're doing this year for sure.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, with that said, we'll go ahead and tie a bow on top of this. With James Ochoa, we want to thank you and our partners at Flexential for being on this week's podcast here at the Download. Job well done. Thank you for the insights. Again, if you or anyone you know has a IT project coming up in the near future or in the next year or 2, please remember Tier 4 Advisors. You can find us at tier4advisors.com or reach out to your local regional president in your local market for help. Again, Jake Sherrill and Joel Andersen signing off. James, thanks again for being here.